Podcast time. What's up, everybody? Pastor Jamie, Dylan, Emily. Listen, Beach Hippie Coffee. Where did you find Beach Hippie Coffee? Like you just Googled like unique coffee spot in Myrtle Beach?
No, I just Googled coffee shop. And apparently it was voted the best in 2022. So,
Stop it.
so that's where I went.
Palmetto Pointe Church coffee wasn't on that list?
Wasn't on the list.
Where was this list at?
Google.
Google. Caleb, get us on Google. Get our coffee on Google. I feel like, I've never heard of Beach Hippie Coffee. So I feel like it's got to be like a hole in the wall type.
It kind of looks like it, yeah. But they have like a bunch of specialty coffees and stuff.
And yours is what?
Just a chai latte.
Chai latte. And yours is what?
Mine is a can of Coke Zero and a cup of ice.
So you're not a coffee guy?
Not at all. Not at all. I
Okay.
like sugar.
He likes the
At
frappuccinos.
Starbucks, I say, I'm going to get a milkshake or a Frappuccino.
Yeah.
and-
Frappuccino.
yeah. No, I'm not a coffee guy.
I am a semi kind of like I want to like coffee, but I'm not fully loving coffee yet. And I'm 43, so you would feel like if I'm going to acquire a taste for coffee, it would have happened by now.
Right. It's probably not coming.
Come on, don't say that.
Do you like sugar?
Love it.
Do you like the frappuccinos?
Love them. I like
Well, that has
I like
some
fake
coffee.
coffee.
in
I
it.
like coffee
Yes, yeah,
and then like
exactly.
cream and sugar.
Well,
like,
that
you know,
counts.
does it count?
That
Well, then I'm a
counts.
huge coffee drinker.
Yeah, I don't like black coffee.
Like, I just want to be able to drink black. I just want to be like, black coffee, just give it to me black.
That's
We
like
used to call that cowboy coffee.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't suffered enough in life.
I was gonna say, it's like
Black
a-
coffee.
it's like a military thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Scott Slate did y'all meet Scott while you were here? He's our missions guy. He was in
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, our missions guy, Scott, never liked coffee. We went on our first missions trip, and he, I guess that was probably maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And this lady made us the most beautiful, delicious cup of coffee you've ever had in your life. And Scott was like, if this is what coffee tastes like, I want to drink coffee. So Scott went from never drinking coffee to now that's all he drinks all day long, every day, walks around. He roasts our coffee here. He does all things coffee, and he just drinks it black. And I'm like, man, that's so cool.
Yeah,
It's like a mustache. Like, to me,
Yeah,
black
yeah.
coffee and a mustache go together,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm-
It has to be good coffee for you to drink it black. Because when I was in Mexico, there were several times that I would just drink the coffee black, but not here.
What are you in Mexico for?
I went for YWAM, so I was there for 5 months.
YWAM. We have one in Myrtle Beach.
Really?
I say just recently opened, maybe the last couple years.
Mhm.
But YWAM Boston came down and did an event here not at this church, at our previous location. Did an event for us. They're phenomenal. The heart behind them. Everybody was just so loving and on fire for the Lord, and it was really cool. Kent Basher actually considered going to YWAM.
Yeah, I had a great experience.
How long were you in for?
5 months. That's it.
5 months. That's what it is.
Yeah, I did my DTS, which is the discipleship training school, and you
Mm-hmm.
can go back and you can do more like secondary schools or you can staff. But then COVID hit. When I got back, I was considering going back, and then COVID hit, and it was like, well, they're going to send me home anyway,
Yeah.
because of COVID. That's really what they had to do. Some people actually got stuck there though, because their visas wouldn't allow them to go home.
Yikes. Where was this? Was in Mexico?
Mhm.
Like what part of Mexico?
In Mazatlan, so it's on the coast.
Interesting.
Vacation town.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like nobody. It still is a cruise port, but it's not like a American vacation spot. It's like a Mexican vacation
So
spot.
YWAM is very hands-on, like go do it, right?
Yes.
And you're getting your master's, potential doctorate in I like to learn.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
All right, I'm glad we've gotten here. So,
I need Johnny Gilman in here for this conversation.
my master's degree is ministry focused.
Mhm.
And so like the first year was like theology and it wasn't, I mean, it was Bible, but it wasn't just the book of Genesis, it was like, this is how we think about the doctrine of the Holy Spirit and all that. And it was like, man, this is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard stuff. And then my second year has been ministry. So it was like, let's set the foundation of what you know and what you understand. And now let's grow in practical, right? And I really have found the practical, and like I just want to learn more. It feels like self-improvement.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Like a preaching class, like getting better, and it's like teaching me, like it's made me a better sermon preparer. Like I'm better at studying now than I was 6 months ago, just from learning different things and learning from pastors who've done it for years and years. And it's just practicalities and like, hey, this really helps, and don't ever forget to pray.
Yeah.
You know, and as crazy as that sounds, you know, it's like when we put together a sermon, sometimes you get so wrapped up in like, all right, what am I going to say next? And then what am I going to say next? And then, oh, I had a great idea. I'm just going to hit the ground running. And it's like, I kind of forgot to pray before doing this. And it's not like I did it on purpose. I just didn't think about it. Yeah. And the things I've learned have made me better.
Awesome.
Maybe like more mature as a preacher and as a
And you're
minister.
at PTS.
PTS, yeah. The Pentecostal Theological Seminary in Cleveland.
It's awesome. Where's your undergrad from?
Lee. The university, yeah. Yeah, I went to Lee.
It's my alma mater as well. Let's go. Go Flames.
Go Flames. Go Flames. They're actually on the college football game, the new video game.
Stop
So
it.
they're not actually on it, but like people have made them.
I love it.
You seen that? You built one?
So Dr. Khan, I was there at Lee a couple weeks ago for a event they had, like Celebration 2024. They invited me in to represent my class, of my graduating class. And so I went there, and Dr. Khan said, you know, I keep getting all of these questions, and the top question I get is, when is Lee getting a football team? And he's like, no time soon. And everyone's like, boo. So, our normal podcast watchers are watching this and thinking, who in the world is this young couple that Pastor Jamie's talking to? So this is y'all just in town visiting, hanging out, spending a few days at the beach, and we got a chance to hang out yesterday, and I was like, oh man, y'all gotta be on the podcast. I gotta let people. I love marriage stuff, and I love ministry stuff, and I love conversations that partner the two. And y'all been married a year and a half, is that what you said? Yeah. Year and a half. So young love, still in that honeymoon phase. Year one's so hard, ain't it? Or was it easy for y'all? At year 21, you're gonna say year one's so hard. Like year 20, it was easy, felt easy. Yeah. Like you already know all the things about each other. Year one, you're still trying to figure out all of the, why do you turn the toothpaste that way, and why did you know, Maddie and I, our first fight was over butter in the fridge or butter on the shelf. Like, where do you put butter? What do you put butter?
In that little
top shelf.
The top shelf.
In the fridge, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's where normal people put butter.
Yeah.
Not my wife. She puts it out on the shelf, like on the counter, like in a butter dish on the counter.
She's a butter dish person. Yeah.
And I was like, it's going to spoil. And she was like, no, it's not. And I was like, surely the package says refrigerate. It doesn't. And it's so much better on the counter.
Is it really?
Because then you just open it up. It's not cold and you're trying to cut it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just smooth, and you just spread it on things. It's amazing.
So now you're a butter dish.
Now I'm a butter on the counter dish person. But I never knew that at first.
Hey, marriage changes you.
Marriage changed me. What's y'all's first fight about?
So, well, our first fight.
First marriage fight. Like, you've had fights, but first fight in marriage.
Real one? Like,
real one.
First good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. It's not something that sticks with me, babe.
How long have you had a nose ring?
For a while, since I was like 16.
Just a whim, just wanted to do it, or something?
Yeah, sort of on a
Parents or churchy people, they didn't think, oh my goodness, I can't believe you have a nose ring.
No, my dad was a little like apprehensive,
Yeah.
but my mom convinced him, so
That's cool.
fine. But yeah, I don't know what our first big fight was about. I know before
She's like, enough with the nose ring.
Before we got together, we argued about a videographer for the wedding.
Oh, you know what? We weren't married, but that was our
first big fight was about the videographer.
Because
money.
Oh.
Because I really wanted it, and then he was like, it's so much more expensive, and so then it got to the point where I was like, well, I don't even want one now because it's just always going to remind me that we argued.
I don't even
multiple
want our
times about
wedding
it.
videos now. Forget it.
That was the first big.
That was our first big fight, and that was, I mean, a few months before we were married.
So how did you like what was the happy medium that you came to and the
We
fight
got
was
a
over?
very quality photographer.
Yeah,
Like
that.
a high quality photographer.
Yeah, we probably spent a little more than most people do, but I loved my pictures, and it actually kind of worked out because her second shooter was wanting to get into videography, and
She made a little video.
yeah, she made a
For
little
free.
for free for us. She
Nice.
made a little video for us, so it all
You
worked out.
ever get to the place to where so y'all married, you serve together, you live close to the church, life revolves around ministry. You don't really have a lot of separation in life. It's always here, it's always together. Do you ever find sometimes it's just easier just to say, I'm sorry, you're right?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Oh yeah.
My son, 2 days ago, gets in a fight with his girlfriend. and I said to him, I'm like, bro, just say I'm sorry and that you were wrong. But he struggles with that. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. I didn't go into any details, Reagan. We love you, but I told him, I said, just tell the girl you're sorry and I said, I'm so glad she doesn't watch this podcast. She will. I'll send her this one. Yeah, you know, sometimes in marriage, it's weird. Like the things that you want to fight about and the things that you're like, this is not worth the fight.
Yeah.
Either one of you hotheads? Uh-oh.
I'm a little bit of
Uh-oh.
a hothead, yeah.
No, I am not a hothead.
He's not.
Good answer,
He's
good answer.
really calm.
So when she's a hothead, what do you do?
Just take it.
Just take it.
Just let her go.
Yeah?
Let her blow off her steam.
Yeah?
That's in a year and a half, that's the wisdom I have.
And
Just let
when
her go.
you're being a hothead, what's going through your mind? Like, what are you thinking?
It's just I've got so many emotions and words in my mind, and they have to come out.
Gotta
or
come out.
It's gonna make me feel worse later.
Yeah.
So they just spew.
We're working on right now when you're bringing me something, especially if I'm not involved, tell me, do you want me to help or do you want me to just listen?
For sure.
We're still working on that because sometimes that question there just sets her off even
Ooh.
more. But we're working through that.
Because I'm wanting to vent about it, but then he's trying to fix it. It's kind of crazy because I say he's so much like my dad, like it's ridiculous. And I recently called my dad about like this issue I was having with my friend. He was like, well, Emily, you know, you need to text her and you need to, you know, just keep your integrity. I'm like, I'm not trying to talk about that right now. I am trying to vent
Just
to
let me
you
vent,
about my
Dad.
friend.
I think what we both do is we only we only know how to be like pastor, like to people.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like I treat her like one of my teenagers, but it's like when somebody comes to me with a problem, it's like, all right, well, let's fix the problem.
Yeah.
And I know that like
Yeah,
people
let me help you. Let me give you some wisdom. Let me give you
People
some
always say
advice.
it's what men do, but I feel like as a pastor, it's like it's even more
For
in
sure.
us to help and to
For
be
sure.
like, well, it's like I see you suffering, I see you going through something. Let's end the suffering, not let's just stew in it. Like that's
For
where my brain goes. And when she's going through something, she doesn't want to get on the other side. She just wants to feel it
Mhm.
and then be done feeling it.
Mm.
And I'm not a feeler like that, so it's hard for me.
Yeah, he's not a feeler. I
Mm.
always say I'll feel and then I'll deal with it. If I don't feel it, then I'm not going to deal with it.
Somebody could walk up and slap me in the face, and I can be like, "What did I do?"
Yeah.
You know, like anger is not an instinct of mine, you know. So it's
I'd have to hold my hand back.
How did you both are called into ministry and doing ministry? Is there a moment that you like, hey, I know in this moment I was called into ministry? Or was it just kind of always there? Or was it something that you had to pursue? What's the story of your calling into ministry?
okay. So
And I don't think any of those are wrong.
I grew up.
Like people like the Lord has to call you, man. I'm like, sometimes you got to pursue it, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's just never there, and we're all walking in the calling of the Lord. So none of those are wrong. So
Well, I grew up in a pastor's home. Well, my grandfather was my pastor. My parents were youth and kids pastors, like my whole life.
Awesome.
And I like it's that thing where you knew it was in you from from the jump. You knew that it's what you were supposed to do, but it's not what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my
totally get it.
Whole childhood, I was like, I don't want this. I want to do something else.
Totally get it.
I grew up. I loved sports. I played football. I loved it. I get into high school. I was in church, but not about church.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for everything, but I didn't want to be there most of the time, if that makes sense. And I was 15, sophomore in high school, and I broke my back during fall practice, like right before the game started at high school. And I wasn't God's gift to football. I'm 5'9", but I was good, and I was good enough to play, and varsity was happening, and it was like, oh, I'm awesome. I was sophomore. I'm 15 years. Look at this, and like these seniors are talking to me. It's that thing in high school.
Yeah.
And I break my back. It was a vertebrae compression fracture, and sitting in a hospital room, they tell me, you can probably play football again, but you shouldn't, And this is before, so I'm in the local hospital before they transported me to Dallas. I lived in Texas. They transported me to Dallas for a better hospital for treatment. But in the local hospital, they told me, you're probably never going to play football again. You probably shouldn't play sports again, And it was in that moment of, like, I didn't even make a decision. It's just, like, the weight of running from not God, because I was still a Christian, and I still love Jesus and all of that. But it's like the running from what I was meant to do. I knew it was over in that moment.
Mm.
And it was just like I said, I'm not a feeler, but I wept in a hospital room with my mom holding me as a 15-year-old kid.
15.
Yeah, I mean, she's got her arms around me, and I'm just weeping there, knowing that I was surrendering. Is a good way to put it. I was giving up my plans.
Sometimes I wonder. I don't know this to be accurate, and every time I know somebody's going to push back against us. So I get it. And probably the person that's going to push back against this is probably a pastor's kid that doesn't want to follow the calling of God upon their life. But I wonder, like, that Levite heritage of priesthood that was on your grandfather and on your father and mother. And although I'm the same way, my grandfather, my father, I'm the same way. And I wonder sometimes if there is a generational anointing covering passed down that is hard to run from. And I wonder if that's why pastors' kids oftentimes run the furthest, because they're trying to get away from what they saw and what they hated and what they didn't want. And I think there's something deeper spiritually there than we fully understand. Again, I don't know that I have scriptural backing to what I'm saying, but I definitely think there's something there.
Feels like there's practical examples.
Yes.
Of that, like, especially running the furthest.
Yeah.
Like, growing up in the Church of God, growing up as a pastor's kid, the same kid. Me and Caleb were talking about this last night, but the same people your whole life. Even if there's that same 30 kids that are your age that you grow up seeing at every event, but you see them 3 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you catch people in moments, so then you see progression at a much heightened amount because you don't see them every day.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like growing up around that. You saw the kids that, we're all 11-year-old kids who are just kids. And then by the time we're 16, some of them are just out in the world. It's like, they're not even coming to youth camp anymore. And it's an example. But
for sure.
I think that there is a generation of, especially about my grandpa's age, but, that really ran off their kids from ministry.
For sure.
And you can't say, I can't say what it was or how it happened because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But there's so many people who are 40 to 50 who ministry was inside of them, and they were so discouraged by what they saw that they chose not to do it.
It's heartbreaking, ain't it?
it's crippled our church. I mean,
it's crippled this generation.
Yeah.
It's crippled us.
And you look around. So, okay, this is a little off topic, but Pastor Jamie, we were talking about this. I heard you preach at winter camp meeting in Tennessee. I was there. Well, this summer I heard you preach in South Carolina camp meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard the message you preached about, well, the words that you said that stuck with me because it's just so true in multiple places. You said, you were talking about South Carolina, but it's true from where I come from too. You said, if we're not careful, in 10 years, we're going to look around this room and we're going to say, where are all the kids?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, and I said this to other people at the time, that is true because of a generation that's a retirement age now, that their kids are not around.
Yeah.
And you've got the next generation who seems to be, you know, they say it's the post-truth era. They're open to ministry.
Absolutely.
They're open to the Spirit. I mean, they're open to they want it all. They're not questioning it the same way kids were 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the generation that should be leading them is just not here.
Yeah. Man.
Sorry,
I mean, I
got
feel
a
like
little
that's
off
really true in our youth group as well. I mean, we've got a lot of kids who are called to ministry or they're interested in ministry, but they don't have somebody at home that's really
A role model that lived it out
a role
in front
model
of them.
that's lived that out. And
Oh gosh, it's scary how many of our kids just don't have good home life. I mean, I know that's pretty true.
Yeah.
In America,
For sure.
because I mean a huge part of me wanting to be in ministry was watching my mom and dad step into it later in life, and we got to relaunch a church, and like I just found that so fun.
Yeah,
I was 12 at the time, and like it was an insane process because we just had like 12 old ladies, so there was no manpower.
So your story is Virginia, Louisiana, Texas, and your parents going from balling, I think is the word
Yes.
you used,
balling.
financially in the business world,
Yeah.
to walking away from that and committing their life to ministry in their 40s.
Yeah.
And so you are watching them walk away from materialistic things to say, I surrender my life to the calling of the Lord upon me.
Right.
And so when was your moment where you said, I surrender, I know you're calling me, Lord?
I feel like I never really ran from it that hard.
Okay.
It was never really in my mind a lot before I went into ministry. Before we as a family went into ministry, though, I feel like there was always something. I loved going to church and, at kids' church and stuff and everything, but there was just something different once we went into ministry. Like I could see myself doing that, whether it was relaunching a church or being in youth or whatever it was. And so I just feel like it was an ongoing, sort of thing. Now I definitely had my pastor's kid rebellion troubles.
Sure.
But it was what kept me from going even
Got
further.
a nose
Yeah.
ring.
Got a nose ring,
rebellious
went
girl.
But what always kept me from going, but so far is that I knew that, the Lord had a plan for me in ministry.
It's funny. If my generation got a nose ring, it would have been like, you rebellious kid. Your generation, it's like,
It's
"Ah,
just-
cool.
It's just
It's cool.
it's just the thing.
It's neat.
Yeah.
I like it. It's cool.
You should
So
get
much.
one.
Probably not. I did pierce my ears one time on stage whenever I was young in ministry, honest to goodness, really I grew up very Pentecostal. My heritage is, running, shouting, hooting, hollering, that's what I grew up in. And so whenever we planted a church, I really thought the reason Pentecostal churches weren't growing is because they were doing this thing and people were afraid of them, and my friends wouldn't come to church with me because of the Holy Spirit. And so I was so afraid of the Holy Spirit that I used to say, hey, we're not going to let the Holy Spirit move. Really, first year in ministry, that was kind of my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So dangerous. Looking back now, I'm just like, you idiot. No wonder the church didn't grow whenever you first started, But learned a lot in that season, found out that you got to have the Holy Spirit in your ministry and moving and doing in people's lives. But during that time, it was the season of bedazzled jackets and, the jeans with the whatever they're called, the not bedazzled jeans, but the the not rhinestones, but anyways, just very
like the Ed Hardy
the Ed
stuff.
Hardy
Yeah.
stuff, yes, like
Kiss me
that,
jeans.
right, like that. And so we were in that season of trying to be cool, right, and trying to balance being cool and being righteous at the same time. So I wasn't going to cuss from stage like, some preachers did to get clickbait. I wasn't going to do that, but I would always like, hey, what can we do that would just be cool? And so one Easter Sunday, maybe Palm Sunday, we talked about he was bruised for our iniquities, pierced for our transgressions. And so as I was preaching it, I got my ears pierced on stage during a sermon. So stupid. Looking back now, I'm like, what an idiot. I thought I was being cool in the moment,
That's so
Were you
funny.
after it happened? Were you preaching and then like blood's
Blood's
flowing?
dripping down my ear. I'm like, oh, what's happening? I left them in for probably I left them in for probably 6 months or so, and it was so cool. I loved having earrings, but then you just kind of went, and I'm a father. I'm, that by that time probably 28, 29 years old. I'm like, what am I doing with earrings? And so I took my earrings out and regret telling that story. Just where we were in ministry.
It's pretty hilarious.
It is pretty hilarious, not so much. You ever heard of Dragon Ball Z?
I've heard of it. It's not my.
You ever heard of Dragon Ball Z? What did Jonathan Zeman say about Dragon Ball Z? He said he's here for the Dragon Ball Z conversation. That's all he's here for. He didn't even come for church growth, church leadership, ministry, marriage. He's here for Dragon Ball Z conversation. That's
It's a cartoon.
That's a cartoon.
Yeah.
That I've never heard of
Never watched it.
until last week. Pastor Joseph, his office is full of Dragon Ball Z stuff, and somehow he got on here and explained Dragon Ball Z to me, and I still don't understand anything about it. So
Yeah, me neither. Is it a card game, Caleb? No. Oh, okay. Is that you don't know anything? Okay.
Ninjago, as far as we went with you, son, we watched VeggieTales. That's what Caleb was allowed to watch.
Did you watch Bible Man?
But I was a little too old for Bible Man.
Okay.
Simeon told me about Bible Man. I think Caleb's probably a little too young for Bible Man. Simeon told me about Bible Man. I went and looked it up. It is awful.
He had a lightsaber.
It is awful.
It was incredible as a kid.
Incredible.
As a kid.
As a kid.
Of course, I mean, I think they stopped making it before I was old enough to watch, but it felt,
Reruns.
It felt good. Like, it felt like it was new. And I was like, this is awesome. He's got a lightsaber.
Bible Man. I love it. And then somebody asked last week or 2 weeks ago about a sabbatical from his job, even though it's not ministry. Yeah, Andy, listen, I would say definitely talk with your company if that's a season of growth you want to be a part of and you want to go see and learn and get better at your craft. I think any company would be crazy not to let you participate in that. It may not be a month like we experienced around here. It may be something like a 2-week conference or whatever, going and serving with another community. I don't know how it works in that field. But yes, I would definitely say companies should be doing this to learn, to grow, to get better, because it is so extremely beneficial. It has been so extremely beneficial to my life, to this ministry. And so, yeah, do a sabbatical. It's good for you. Good and healthy for you. So how old are you? 24.
23.
23. 28. 26. Ay. Babies. That's what people tell you, right?
All the time?
All the time.
Babies. Just babies. Year and a half. Give me the wisdom. What have you learned in a year and a half of marriage? You have a group of people that have been married for 50 years watching this, and then you have people like Caleb who hope to be married one day. What advice would you give to somebody watching this from a year and a half?
Can I go first?
Mm-hmm.
Please.
So I didn't get married till I was 25. And in the church world, that seems like,
Forever.
50.
You are so old.
Right. Right. For anybody who's not married, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. If you're not married and you're young and you just feel that, obviously it's desperate. It's desperate loneliness. It hurts. It is the worst, because at that point you've never felt anything else as bad as that. Learn to find contentment with your life, because that's when God will send you somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You're praying and you're seeking God, you're fasting and you're pleading with God, send me a husband, send me a wife. I can't do this anymore. I hate being alone. I hate this and that. My life is terrible because I don't have somebody. Woe is me.
Mm-hmm.
The longer you'll do that, you haven't surrendered.
And the truth is, that person that God is going to send to you will never be able to complete the thing inside of you that you think they're going to be able to complete.
Yeah. And there's somebody that we're trying to help counsel through that exact thing, and they're looking for Mr. Right.
Yep.
They're looking for Superman because they haven't become content and joyful with what God's given them now.
Yeah.
And because of that, when God sends them Robin, because he's not Superman, he's not going to be enough for her.
Differentiation. You got to make sure that I'm connected to the Lord individually apart from her. Because if I'm not connected to the Lord on my own, then if she begins to crumble, begins to stumble, begins to have a bad day, then my connection to the Lord is through her or with her, and this is all I know of my connection with the Lord, then you're going to find you crumbling and you stumbling as well. So finding that contentment, I love when Paul says to Timothy, godliness plus contentment is great gain, right? Just be righteous, be satisfied in your life where you're at right now, and you will find great gain out of those two, that equation of godliness plus contentment. And in your pre-marriage process, finding a way to just be content in the season that you're at. Just stay there, stay connected to the Lord. Asking him to send you someone, yes, but not so that they can fill a void in your life that you're never going to be fulfilled if it's not for this void. No, God, you fulfill me. Yeah. You are my source. You are my strength. You are the one that gives me life and breath every day, not this person you're sending into me. And then when that person gets there, then you can really love them.
And I would say the same thing is true for people who've been divorced.
No doubt.
And people who've widowed or,
no doubt.
We have a family member between us, anonymity. We have a family member who they've lost their spouse, and that has become who they are, is widower, just to remain anonymous. But it has become everything inside of them is that they are alone. Yeah. That not that they're alone, that they're not here anymore. Mm-hmm. And because of that, like when you become that to that point where your life was just so much about them and not with your connection with God, you can't move forward. And that's what our walk with Christ is. We can't look backwards. Yeah. We have to keep going forward.
And they spent so many years with that person, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, however long, with that person that they have through the years found their identity wrapped up in who we are together, which is, it's the beauty of marriage. The two become one. It is this beautiful part of marriage that you two get to become one, and your identity is going to bleed into each other, but you also have to find your stability in the Lord outside of each other as well. But what's marriage advice you got?
I think that it's super important to marry somebody that will fight for you. Mm-hmm. I watched my dad fight for my mom a lot when I was growing up. My mom really struggled with depression, and my dad never gave up on my mom. And I remember watching that and knowing I wanted to marry somebody that would fight for me and not give up on me either, Awesome. And in our first year of marriage, it was really an easy year. And then right at the end of that, I got diagnosed with a lot of things, and I was dealing with depression and all of these health issues. And he reacted like my dad did. And, he fought for me and he stayed there for me. And I remember one time that we were talking, and I'd asked him to pray for me, and he was like, I've already been praying for you. and that's the type of person that you not only need to want to marry, you need to marry, because I think it's important to love somebody's character and not somebody's personality. We'll go through things where our personality will change, but like your character, like the roots of you, they don't really change. So really look at somebody's character, not as much at their personality all the time.
And when you're,
Let me just say, attaboy.
when your wife or your husband, whatever, when they're going through the worst, it's so hard, but it's also the easiest thing in the world to be there, to be what they need, I guess is a good way to say that. It's hard because it's emotionally challenging. It's frustrating at times. It's like, I wish I could take this. I wish I could be the one to bear this problem. I wish, I wish, selfishly, I wish I didn't have to hear about this all the time,
For sure.
I mean, the human thing is like, like, babe, could you just stop complaining about how this or that or what, and it's like, you don't say those things in the moment, but it's like, it's hard, but it's also so easy because all you have to do is be there.
Yeah. I will say this, Maddie's very open with her struggles, her mental struggles, and she's doing so great. God is so good. Thank you, Lord. In seasons where she struggles, I'm the same way. For me, it's easier when she is either doing well or doing bad, because when she's bad, I can swoop in and do all the things I need to do. When she's good, I can just go about my day and be good with her. It's the in-between that's the struggle for me. It's I can see it on your face,
But you're acting like
everything's okay. So I want to swoop in and help, but I know if I bring this up, then it's going to create a conversation that you don't want to have, that then may allow emotions to rise up in you that I'm watching you battle. And so you're in this weird place of, I want to help. I can't help. I also can't move on with my day because I see it on your face that you're struggling. So I'm in this weird place of, what do I do? That's tough.
It's the hardest thing about marriage. It is. That
So
in
hard.
between is so
It's
difficult.
so hard.
And even if it's not about mental struggles,
No,
but it's just
it's
anything.
Everything. Listen, you will find in marriage, it's finances.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She bought a coffee, you got water, and there's $8 in the bank. Maddie and I tell the story all the time. We literally didn't have $8 to buy antibiotics for, she had strep throat, and we had to borrow it from my parents because we didn't have $8 to pay for antibiotics for strep throat. Like, that's where we've been in ministry and marriage. Finance is going to be a hard moment in life at some point in the future, especially coming from a family that was balling.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, okay, so if you
They're not
bring that
balling
up-
anymore, I know. But
Well, you bring that up. So it wasn't a single fight, but
That's true.
That
This is true.
dichotomy of how we grew up was the hardest part of learning each other.
Yeah.
I think that was the best way. Like, she grew up where she says it's the best way to say this. Getting an appetizer at a restaurant was nothing for her and her family growing up. For our family, it was like going to the restaurant was the decision.
Right. You better we're going, but you better get water.
Yeah.
Eat as much bread as you can, and you two are sharing a meal. You know what I mean?
Meal, yeah,
Right.
yeah. You're like, Dad, I'm 15.
Yeah, listen, me and my wife are the same exact way. I grew up, not well off.
In a pastor's home.
Pastor's home. My dad worked 2 jobs his entire life. Like, that was our life. Maddie grew up with her dad was managing the mall, all of the mall, not like a store in the mall, all of the mall, and got whatever she wanted. And she's a little bit spoiled. And then I came along and did everything I could to help spoil her even more, right? And so we still have, our entire life, our life together, 21 years, we fight about money more than anything. Because it's like, what are you doing, girl? We don't got it like that. Stop it.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I don't know. What is money? Money is it just grows on trees, doesn't it? So yeah, so it's not just mental battles. It's money. It's the in between. You know the fight's coming, but you're not ready to rip the Band-Aid off yet, and there's this awkward tension in between.
And it's stress.
It's stress.
Yeah.
It's your time management. It's that awkward moment of, okay, he hasn't went too far where he's given all of his life here and not, taking care of me. But it's that in between of, I know this fight is coming if he does this one more time. I know this fight's coming. It's your sex life. I know this fight's coming whenever, I haven't had it in this long and she's, and you're like, oh, it's coming. One more night of her denying me. And I'm, and so it's all of these moments where it's this in between of, I feel it. It's on the way, but I don't want to say anything yet because I don't want to rip the Band-Aid off yet. But also know once we get there, we can fix it.
Yeah.
But this in-between is so difficult.
And I think the in-between is where, we do our very best to not be passive-aggressive because I feel like that it's so negative.
Yeah.
And it drives me insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With anybody.
Yeah.
Like, just say what's on your mind.
Just be open, right? Just be honest,
Like,
right?
It's not like you're being fake, but be real in this moment.
Yeah.
Tell me. So we try not to do that, but in that in-between is when that temptation is just be like, you could, it's like, that is when I feel like,
oh, that's a nice dress you have on there. And in your mind, you're thinking, bet she just bought that one brand new.
Yeah.
I've seen that one before.
Oh, where'd you get that from? Yeah.
Oh, you're drinking coffee again today from work, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I hope that's from Shein.
Yeah. That's all the memes, with all the, where y'all probably don't keep up with this stuff, but we're on the coast, so all of our ports have been shut down. Like recently, they opened back up, but they were shut down for a few days. And I saw so many memes of ladies posting like where what's the guy's name? The black guy that not Anthony. What's his name? Anyways, it's the meme, where he's looking out the window and he's and it says my wife waiting on her Shein package. Because ports are shut down. Anyways, not coming. They ain't coming. No Shein package coming. Marriage is interesting. It's so much. It's amazing. So amazing. I love it. But it's also, it is a constant fight to, not fight in a bad way. You constantly have to fight to keep your marriage healthy.
Yeah.
You can't just say, you know what, we're good. Let's just ignore each other now. We're good. Walk away.
Yeah.
No, it's constant. 21 years later. My advice to you, 21 years later. It's constant. Every day, waking up, this morning, looking at my wife, telling her she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Every single day. Because what I always say is there's going to be somebody in her life that's going to tell her that one day. And when they tell her that guy is making a pass at her. When he tells her that, she's going to say, I know my husband tells me that every morning. So every day, it's a constant. I can't just take a day off. In your faith, you can't take a day off. In your marriage, you can't take a day off. And so you just constantly chase each other.
Yeah, there's so much to learn about each other because, like he mentioned, he was raised a completely different way than I was. And that doesn't really,
not even like class. Like I'm from Texas, she's from the mountains of Virginia. Like culturally, very like
it's just
very
so many things that are different. They've got different traditions for Christmas, and I try to remind my single friends like, you're gonna encounter a whole different struggle of conversations and things that you two have to figure out when you get married, but you're not thinking about it when you're dating, engaged, because you're just in like the, oh, I love them, I can't wait to marry them. And then you get into it, and it's like, oh my gosh, we've got to figure out Christmas and all of these different
And then
things.
wait till you have kids.
Yeah.
we are waiting.
Yeah. Because then there's all these new conversations of how do you discipline them? What is right? What is wrong? What is not right and wrong in righteous way, but like, hey, are we going to let our kids watch this tablet for 3 hours? Or are we going to, teach them sign language? Whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, then add on top of a kid, now Christmas, well, your parents are like, that's okay. If you gotta go with their family, it's okay. Now you got a grandbaby involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they like, oh no, you coming to me for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And for both of us, I mean, they're 1,000 miles away
Yeah.
from us. So, like,
Yeah.
it's a struggle because it's like, well,
It's not like you just ride up to the upstay.
let me get
you
my
know?
private jet and
Yeah.
fly too.
Yeah.
And for your family, their decision to be that far away. For your family, your decision to move away from them. So that's strange. You got a lot of interesting conundrums in the future that you got to figure out.
Yep.
We will.
We will, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So,
Nothing's that hard. Nothing's impossible.
no, for sure. For sure. And once you set it in stone, year one, like, hey, okay, Christmas Eve, we're going to be with you. Then we're going to jump on a plane Christmas Day, and we're going to come to you, whatever it is. Once you set it in stone, they'll be like, all right, this is your family. Whatever's best for y'all, we'll do it that way. So, totally makes sense.
Mhm.
Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for coming.
Welcome.
Thanks for being a part of the podcast. Hey, click here to subscribe. Click here for next video. Click here for whatever YouTube puts up there one day. Love you guys. God bless. Peace out. Let's go.